morning. We're going to ask legislators to step forward or online, and we're going to do the in-house ones first, and then we'll go online for any other legislators that are waiting for us. We're trying to hold all legislators to 5 to 7 minutes so we can hear from as many as possible, and with questions that may go on farther, but your presentation should last no more than 5 to 7 minutes to us. We'd greatly appreciate that. And then just for the future of the public that are listening, on Wednesday of next week at 10:30 in the morning, we will be back here again and have a public open house where the public can come speak to us. And then in the afternoon, we have some people lined up that are medical field scientists and stuff like that to come talk specifically about the substance we're talking about today. So, Senator?
Thank you, Representative Heinert. I know I haven't been a legislator for that long. However, this is the first time we've had an opportunity to do something like this where it's just time for legislators to come and speak on a certain issue. And so I think with the truncated timeline that we have of 30 days to really make sure we're all educated and we have an opportunity to hear from each other. Normally we get that during session, walking around the hallways, walking over to each other's chambers and meeting as caucuses. However, with such a short timeline, we're not going to have that opportunity. So I think today is a great chance for us to hear from our colleagues, ask questions that those of us on the working group can then try to get experts to answer those next Wednesday or at the legislative hearings coming up during the special session. So I think today is a great chance for us to just be able to hear from one another on what we've heard from constituents in this short timeline or things that we want to learn within the next 30 days. So with that, I'll hand it over to Victoria. She's got a memo for us.
Thank you, Chairman Axman. I just wanted to highlight for the members on Teams, I apologize, we were muted there for just a second. So you may have missed the comments of Representative Heinert, but he indicated that we're going to take testimony from legislators in the room first and then take testimony from individuals online, and that we will try to keep comments to 5 to 7 minutes each. Now I'm just going to provide a brief overview of Kratom regulation. I'm looking at LC number 27.925901,000. This memorandum provides an overview of federal and state regulation related to kratom, a derivative of the Mitragyna speciosa tree containing psychoactive compounds. Kratom is currently marketed as an herbal supplement for pain relief, opioid withdrawal, depression, anxiety, concentration, and recreational purposes. The potential side effects include abuse, dependency, and risk of fatality, which have prompted federal action and the establishment of regulatory frameworks in 31 states, as well as executive action in North Dakota. Kratom contains over 40 psychoactive alkaloids, the most common of which are mitragynine and 7-OH. Kratom produces a stimulant effect in low doses and a depressant opioid effect in higher doses. A 2022 survey conducted by SAMHSA found that 1.9 million individuals have used kratom in 2021, with the highest use reported among individuals 18 to 25. Products containing synthetically concentrated or chemically modified 7-OH and other kratom alkaloids are pervasive in unregulated retail markets. The level of synthetic kratom found in products on the market often exceeds the amount found naturally in the plant, prompting concern from health officials, regulators, and lawmakers. Kratom has several side effects, including liver damage, high blood pressure, weight loss, constipation, olfactory hallucinations, delusions, difficulty breathing, tremors, seizures, and confusion. The kratom synthetic 7-OH binds to opioid receptors and may produce a physical dependence, difficulty breathing, and withdrawal symptoms consistent with other opioids. A baby born to an individual who used kratom during pregnancy is at risk of experiencing withdrawal and requiring medical treatment. 24 kratom, 7-OH, or kratom derivative associated deaths have occurred in this state since 2019, 23 of which the North Dakota Department of Health and Human Services has indicated were primarily caused by kratom. The toxicology reports of 26 additional individuals indicated kratom was present in their system at the time of their non-natural death. The next section goes into federal action. I'm going to skip over to the most recent action taken by the feds. On July 1st, 2026, the DEA filed 2 notices of intent to temporarily classify 7-OH and 7-OH related substances as Schedule I controlled substances under the CSA, or Controlled Substances Act, on or after August 5th, 2026. The next section summarizes some state action that has been taken by other states. 9 states to this date have prohibited kratom. A large number of others have regulated it. I included some overviews on Arizona and Colorado, which have some pretty extensive frameworks for regulation. The last section of the memo summarizes the North Dakota action, the executive action taken by Governor Kelly Armstrong on August 3rd, 2026, including the convening of a special session on September 2nd, 2026. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Victoria. With that, we'll move into our open comment period. So I do see 3 legislators in the room. Representative Clemeen, you look like you're already lunging forward. So go ahead and you can kick us off. Thank you.
Well, good morning, members of the working group. I guess you're not actually a committee, but, and co-chairman. I don't have anything prepared to present to you, but I do have some comments. First, with all due respect to the Legislative Council memorandum here, I don't see any mention of House Bill 1101 or 1566, both of which had extensive testimony on kratom during the 2025 legislative session. So as far as North Dakota action is concerned, maybe we should just review that a little bit further. First of all, let's talk about House Bill 1101. 1101 was introduced in the House to place kratom. I'll just use the word kratom rather than the 70H or the other word which I find hard to pronounce, even for me. Kratom was put in, part of House Bill 1101, which would have placed kratom as a Schedule I substance.
Representative Clemeen, sorry to interrupt. We just have a lot of online. Can you just make sure the mic is a little closer? Our online colleagues are having trouble hearing you.
Okay. House Bill 1101, can you hear me now? House Bill 1101 was introduced in the House in the 2025 session to place kratom as a Schedule I substance under the North Dakota Schedule of Substances. That bill had an extensive hearing in the House Judiciary Committee. There were many comments, both for and against doing that, and the testimony is very extensive, and yet there is no mention whatsoever in this memorandum of that bill. That bill received a 10-3 do not pass recommendation from the House Judiciary Committee, and then went before the House where it received a 15-77 vote in opposition. So we've already had extensive hearing on this subject just last session on this very issue of whether it should be a substance, Schedule I substance, and it only received 15 votes in the House. And yet here we are going into a special session to do the same thing all over again. House Bill 1566 was another bill on kratom, which is not mentioned in this memorandum. That bill was heard before the House Human Services Committee. That bill was initially introduced to regulate kratom as a substance and place some restrictions on it and penalties and so forth. However, during the course of the process of House Bill 1566, that was first amended into a provision that would allow the Commissioner of Agriculture to regulate that as a food substance, and also to do a study on the bill. That bill passed the House, went to the Senate. Senate further amended that just into a study, and so as it ended, it passed the legislature as a study. However, it was not elected for study by legislative management. So that bill also received a considerable amount of testimony, both for and against. So we've got a lot of conflicting information about kratom as whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, or whether it should be regulated or prohibited. The executive order issued by Governor Armstrong calls on the legislature to hold a special session to determine whether we should either regulate or prohibit kratom as a substance. And under the executive order is now prohibited until such time as the legislature takes some further action. Well, so here we go. We're doing this all over again, what we just did in the 2025 session. Okay. I've got a couple of suggestions, I think, on how we should address this, to have some alternatives, alternative bills presented to the legislature, probably to a joint committee like we did in the last special session. And those bills, I think I would visualize doing something similar to what was done in the 2025 session. First, we would have one bill which would classify it as a Schedule I substance. As I mentioned, that only received 15 votes in the House last time. But that would be consistent with the governor's executive order. So we would have one bill that would put it on as a Schedule I substance. And then I would suggest that we have another bill that would regulate it, because the executive order doesn't say that we're going to have a special session just to determine how it should be prohibited, but rather whether it should be regulated or prohibited. So I'm proposing that the second bill be a regulation. So we'd have the first bill, which would be the prohibition. We'd have the second bill, which would be the regulation. And then then the public would have the opportunity to come in and testify in support or in opposition of both of those bills, and the legislature could make a reasonable decision on which way to approach this. I don't know a whole lot about the scientific evidence on kratom. I do know that it comes from a natural substance which has also been synthesized. I think that the synthetic versions are the real problem. And as I understand this 7-OH, there's also an 8-OH and a 10-OH already. So all of those varieties should be included in what we do. But I think the regulation could maybe ameliorate the situation and allow for maybe the prohibition of the 7-OH type synthetic versions of a certain type of strength to be prohibited, while allowing the natural versions, which some people seem to think is good for many situations, that could also be allowed to be produced and sold in North Dakota, but could be regulated either through the Department of Health or through the Agriculture Commissioner, as was suggested in House Bill 1566 last session. There is a third alternative, and I'm not sure how difficult this would be, but we do have a considerable amount of legislation already in effect on medical marijuana, perhaps as a medical substance and as a Schedule I substance even. Kratom could be merged into the law that we have on medical marijuana, since that's already set up with dispensaries and a lot of regulation. So that's really my comments. Just wanted to make sure you were aware that we've had this all discussed and thoroughly not too long ago, and that there are some alternatives we should look at, which could be done through a joint committee if we're only going to do 3 days. But I should caution you that I think if you're going to have another meeting of some type next Wednesday, as I just heard this morning, for the public to come in and make comments, you might be surprised by the amount of comments you do get. When we had a hearing there, especially on 1101, there was a considerable amount of comments and written submissions on that bill. And that was the one that would place it on as a Schedule I substance. So I'm not sure that 3 days is going to be enough. One final alternative that we could consider, I think, in the special session is to do something temporary until we can get into the 2027 session. And then we would have more time to really deal with this stuff in detail. And of course, we could always have an emergency clause on that type of action, whatever it was that the special session decided to do, if it put it off temporarily until the 2027 session. And those are really my comments. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Representative Colleen. Doesn't look like we have any questions for you.
Well, I won't be here for the 2027 session, so I hope you all have a good time.
Thank you.
Oh,
I see. Okay, Representative Wilson.
Well, hello, members of the working group. Sue Ann Olson, District 8. I would really mostly want to just echo what Representative Clemeen has just stated. The two bills that were heard last session, had extensive testimony. And I would like to comment, most of the people that were in opposition, primarily you'll find that in 1101, lots of them talked about what it did for them for pain relief. And both my husband and I have been blessed with tremendously good health, but I have a sister who was hurt in an industrial accident in Minnesota. And she wound up with RSD, I think it was called a reflex sympathy dystrophy in her arm, where, for decades, you couldn't touch her. And I'll never forget at a Christmas gathering with a bunch of families around, one of our uncles, just went up to her and sort of clapped her on the back. Hi, how are you doing? She shot out of that chair and, was just immediately in tears. If you've never, known what chronic pain is, it's easy to say, well, there's something else they can take, whatever. I saw her being on morphine patches for more than 20 years and really how it changed who she was able, what she was able to do. And where some of these people were testifying that they had found this kratom substance, which was the first I'd ever heard of it, actually helped them with pain relief in a way that nothing else did, that didn't put them in a fog, that didn't put them to sleep a lot. We can't just discount what that did for them and just say, well, there must be something else they can use. The testimony, a number of those people said, well, they had tried all of the hard drug stuff, the opioids, trying to control pain, and that nothing worked for them as well as what this substance did. So we can't just dismiss that as, well, we're going to just outlaw it now because some people have abused it in some fashion or they got a hold of adulterated product. I think what most of the testimony really spoke to was the need to have it regulated in some fashion, to make sure of how it's labeled, how it's sold, who it's sold to, what it contains. Those are all very reasonable, and I think that's the direction as a state we should head down. But for a flat-out ban, what we're doing to a number of people, and again, all the people that have been quietly using it for years and years, we don't hear from them. They're just going about their business, doing their thing. And yes, we hear in the news some just crushing stories about somebody who lost their life in whatever the circumstances were, connected to this product. And it's like, yes, we need to address it and make it as safe as we can. But there's also there's people out there that have been using it to great effect that essentially gave them their life back, where they were able to function. So we can't just go, well, too bad for them, we're going to outlaw this. We need to work with that. And so that was really the only thing that I just wanted to remind everybody is that that there are people out there that have said that this has helped them tremendously, allowed them to keep a job, keep their family together, to support themselves. So again, tremendous testimony already in the 25 session. All we need to do is go back and reread it. It's really quite the lineup. So, next week you for sure will hear a number of that, but this is short notice. People are probably not, becoming aware of it and getting their act together to get here to testify, but we already have very current testimony on both sides of this thing with both of those bills that were submitted last session. So please let's take seriously that testimony that we already have. So with that, I don't know if there's any questions, but I just really wanted to remind everybody of that.
I love this lady.
Representative
Best.
Wells, you can-
Bravo.
She totally
Thank you,
gets it.
Representative Olson. So you're talking specifically now about what I call natural kratom, not the synthetic kratom? when you're-
Yes, and again, I don't profess to be a pro on this, but my understanding is that a lot of the people that were testifying for the pain relief it gave them, we're really talking about the natural substance. So I think there's absolutely a way of separating that from the OH7 or whatever it is that naturally is a very small percentage of that leaf. I mean, I think what's happening is they're exploiting that piece of it and with the synthetic versions and making it stronger. So yeah, I think, definitely there's a way to say, nope, right here is where we need to be. And I think that's where the benefit is for a number of the people that are using it as a pain relief source and that kind of thing.
So if I may ask one more question, when you talk about regulations, what thought processes do you have for regulations?
I think the citation related to Arizona and what they're doing, I think is something we should look at. Even the whatever it was, the American Kratom Association, whatever it was, I had emailed that around to all the legislators last night. They cite the kind of a national act for regulation. So I think there's a model bill out there or model plans or whatever you might talk about it, but it appears to me that Arizona probably adopted something similar to that. So I think we'd have something to look at to start with, and possibly a couple of other states may have adopted it as well. But I don't think we totally have to start from scratch. I think there are some states that have put parameters around it.
Thank you, Representative Wilson.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Amazing.
I guess for everyone online, that concludes legislators in the room who would like to speak. Okay, we have a lineup of those in order of those who raised their hand online. So I think Austin will unmute you when your name is called, and then you'll have an opportunity to speak. And Representative Satcham, you are up first.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I appreciate your time. Thank you, everybody. I guess I have a couple of concerns. I have a different angle. I certainly have compassion for the people that Representative Olson was bringing up. One of my concerns, I guess I've been around people that have been on Kratom and have abused it, and so I'm a little bit concerned. And one of the things I was a little bit concerned about is the executive order banning it. And the concern that I have is that that there likely are people that are going through withdrawal right now or about to as soon as their supply runs out. And from what I've heard and understand, that the withdrawal process can be as bad as withdrawing from fentanyl. And my concern in all of this, and I don't necessarily have any answers, but I have questions. I want to bring up concerns. My concern is that people are going to be withdrawing from this, going through a bad situation, and not having the resources for detox, and then they're going to be going to some harder drugs instead. So that is one of the concerns. Also, I think we need to be looking at expanded access to Suboxone, so that people can readily access it if they're coming off of this, and like I say, don't go on to some harder drugs. So those are a couple of concerns that I have moving forward, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Satcham.
I think you got to hit play again. Is it messing up, Misty? Uh-oh, hold on. Let me switch to mine.
Overwhelm the system of the ability to help them with their addiction. It just feels like circular logic to me. And so then when I think about instead of doing an outright ban, doing regulation, I really am trying to figure out how in really one day, because if it's going to be a 3-day session, it's really one day of testimony, amendments, and it has to be out of committee in that one day. How are we going to come up with an adequate regulatory structure that addresses who's going to regulate, how are they going to regulate, with what money are they going to do so? How are we testing that this gas station heroin that we are currently selling doesn't have toxic chemicals in it? You think back to, I remember when I was growing up, talking about what was an acceptable, allowable amount of poison in cigarettes. And so what does that look like? Do we know enough to be able to adequately regulate it properly? And so just to think about, if we're going to do something in regulation, how do we possibly do that well enough in the short amount of time that we're allowing ourselves? Or do we continue the full ban until the full session and then have the regulation conversation then? So those are my concerns about how we're thinking about it so far.
Sorry if
Thank
it
you,
messed
Senator
up.
Wars.
I had to let my dog in.
Representative Murphy.
Okay. Well, you know, Rob Port wrote an article and he and I went around and around because the reality is I love the visualization that gas station heroin draws. I love it. It's awesome. Sensationalism, of course, but it's awesome, right? And so here's the reality. We can't throw all these molecules in together. And there's kratom, and inside of kratom is roughly 1 to 2% of the alkaloid is 7-hydroxymetrogenine. Great. 7-hydroxymetrogenine is a way different molecule than metrogenine, which is the parent molecule. This molecule is naturally made. There's other molecules naturally made, and this is an awesome paper right here on all of these molecules and their effect on receptors, human receptors, opioid binding affinities, as well as adrenergic. And I didn't put that into my email yesterday because kratom's complicated. And it's complicated because not only does it have the effect at opioid receptors, but also adrenergic. 7-OH, not so good at adrenergic. Metrogenine is. That's why actually it may be involved in when normal respiratory depression happens, it helps. Okay, it's not a negative. It's a positive because it's stimulating another receptor system. Part of that is why there's this broad effect of kratom. It's because a number of these molecules stimulate other receptors. Okay, and you know, the pharmacology becomes important. And you know, I'm not a big fan of looking at other states and saying what they've done. I mean, Minnesota is way different than we are. But you know, there's no doubt that the 7-OH products that you can buy would be akin to heroin or morphine, right? No doubt about it. And so when we think about these molecules, you have to think about how they act. And we have some really good information on that. I mean, this medicinal chemistry paper out of University of Florida is outstanding. Complicated, very hard to understand. But if you look at it and you start getting an appreciation, this is why kratom itself is probably so popular amongst many subpopulations. your opioid addict, removes the cravings. Your alcoholic, removes the cravings for alcohol. Okay, and it does so because the main molecule in that is not gas station heroin. It's actually a unique molecule that works almost exactly like buprenorphine. So Representative Satram noted that, he's concerned about increasing access to Suboxone. Well, you know what Suboxone is? It's a combination of buprenorphine and naloxone. Okay, buprenorphine's been used for many years for alcohol and opioid addiction treatment. And so, is Kratom the poor man's treatment center? The people that can't afford it? Okay, possibly, right? I too share a concern about people coming off of Kratom, not being able to access it. Those that are close enough are going to go to Minnesota and buy it or buy it online. Okay, we're not going to stop that. And so the reality is if a opioid addict succumbs to the cravings and starts opioid again, and they go back to their old dose of heroin or fentanyl that they always knew was safe, that they could get their high or their euphoria, what they're seeking, now they're dead. Why are they dead? Because they've lost tolerance. Why they lose tolerance? Because they've been taking Kratom. And so opioids are very dangerous molecules in that they build tolerance quickly and they build addiction. And so Kratom has been successfully used, and I've got a whole pile of papers here that I hope to work with legislative counsel to get those on there, and so everybody can go read the same thing. Some of it you may understand, some of it you may not, but you'll find that there's a tremendous number of papers detailing the clinical use. Withdrawal from Kratom. There is Kratom use disorder. There's a paper out of Johns Hopkins, examines 10 patients. It's very similar to opioid use disorder. Withdrawal is a little harder with those people, but for the vast majority of people, withdrawal has minimal symptoms. Certainly minimal symptoms that you worry about clinically. And so I think as we move forward, we have to understand, we have to separate these two items. The 7-OH and other molecule derivatives thereof, and there's a whole bunch that are naturally in the plant, and then the natural product. And I think what we have to guard against is adulterated product, which is quite common apparently. And that's where the problem lies. Kratom itself, it's going to be tough for it to kill you. Why? Because metrogene does not cause respiratory depression, period. 7-OH causes respiratory depression. That's what you worry about. And it's about as powerful as fentanyl or morphine. Fentanyl is way more powerful than morphine, but this one seems to be about 20 times more powerful than morphine, so it's considerably different. This 7-OH is a problem child because we have people going out buying tablets of it and taking that. And would we allow somebody to just go down and grab some morphine at the pharmacy? No. It requires a prescription. So, because it's a dangerous product, right? It's a dangerous drug. So I think as we move forward, this is the things we have to keep in mind, is we're really looking at two different items and they're radically different. And so I would urge us to move forward with that in mind, and see what happens. I mean, it's going to be the will of the chamber, but my background, I'm going to bring this into class. I have a drugs abuse class, and I'll introduce Kratom as one of our discussion topics for the students to force them to dig into the literature, which, of course, I'll provide to them, and they can go out and find their own stuff. But, it's a very interesting molecule, and it's a very promising molecule, or a set of molecules in the actual plant. And so I think we have to be careful to not throw the baby out with the bathwater. So,
He said it.
I'm here for questions if you have any. I'll do the best I can to answer things, but the science is complicated. I'll just leave it at that.
I love this. I freaking love these reps.
Representative Murphy, I have one question. Did I hear you correctly when you made a comment about withdrawals? Did you say it had minimal symptoms in withdrawals? Did I hear that correctly?
Wait a minute. The kratom plant. Most of the literature that I've read on clinical use indicates that withdrawals are minimal. They're not really. You have a withdrawal from caffeine. Okay, if you don't get your coffee in the morning and you're used to your coffee in the morning and mid-afternoon you have a raging headache, welcome to caffeine withdrawal. Okay, and so lots of molecules that act in a particular way have a withdrawal process. I don't think we're too concerned about caffeine withdrawal. Okay, and so kratom withdrawal, from everything I see, is much, much, much milder than, say, opioid withdrawal. And so opioid withdrawal has to be done with significant caution because that individual may succumb. It's just like alcohol. The DTs, so to speak, are a medically important problem that has to be managed. So yes, you did hear me correct. For kratom itself, I'm not talking about 7-hydroxy in a pill or something like that. I'm talking about the kratom leaf that's unadulterated. Remember, that's a big issue as well, adulteration by adding a very addictive substance, 7-OH, to it, which of course helps ensure that you have a long line of people willing to buy it. And so I think we have to keep all these in perspective.
All right, a question from Representative Porter.
Thank you, Senator. Representative Murphy, the couple of emails that we received over the last couple of days, and one of them included an autopsy report where the only substance that the coroner identified was metrogenine at 2,100 nanograms per milliliter. Are those levels possible in the natural plant, or was this something that was synthetically derived to get to that high of a level where the coroner said the only thing that they could find was that extreme level?
I thought you weren't reading testimonies, buddy.
If you took enough of it, absolutely. So how much is there in, 20, you said 21 nanograms.
2,100.
Yeah, 2,100 nanograms, so 2.1 milligrams per milliliter of blood. What was the?
Yeah, it was milliliters of blood, yep. The sample was drawn from femoral blood.
Yeah. So a 1 gram of kratom has about, from my readings, about 11 milligrams or so of metrogenine, roughly, or total alkaloids, and most of that's not metrogenine. So if you think about how many grams somebody'd have to take to get to that level, of course, I'm a little suspect of the level. It depends upon where they got that from. But yeah, you'd have to put some effort in, right? From if you just do the math. So part of the problem is the half-life metrogenine is pretty short. So I sort of question the report, but I haven't seen it. Didn't come to me. So it maybe came to you, but I didn't see it. So is it possible? If you take enough of anything, it's possible. So I think it's important to remember that, we don't outlaw water, but I would venture to guess we may have one person a year die of water toxicity in North Dakota. Okay. Classically, it's somebody that can't get satiated with water and they keep drinking water. Their brain swells. It becomes a nice smooth thing, and there's damage to the brain that causes death. Okay, and it's really classic, and people go run long marathons or something. They just keep drinking water, and but we don't talk about that, right? So how they get to this number, Representative Porter, I don't know.
Thank you, Senator. And Representative Murphy, that's why I asked you. I thought that one went to everybody, but I did forward that autopsy report to you. I guess, and I don't know that we or the FDA or anybody knows what a toxic level, a blood serum level of metrogenine actually is. And I don't think we know what the effects are, if it's causing cardiac arrhythmias or what it's actually causing, because the rest of the autopsy was completely unremarkable. So it almost appears like it caused some kind of a cardiac arrhythmia that would be undetectable during autopsy. But I guess my concern is that if we know that the substance is okay at that 0.5%, is it still possible that an individual could compound it up to the point or strengthen it up to the point that it achieves blood serum levels like show up in this autopsy? And I don't know if that's preventable or if that's just part of the chemistry of meth and other substances that people compound on their own, or what guardrails we could have in place for something like that.
So I will say this, Representative Porter, that what and I just pulled it up and I'm looking at it. Some interesting electrolyte levels too. This individual is hyponatremic, hyperkalemic. The sodium was 118, which is reasonably low. That would be of concern. So,
Ooh, I know who they're talking about.
Leaving it all this,
Yeah.
the question that, I've had some long discussions with Dr. Hardy. We can speak a similar lingo, and we've talked a bit about how do you address it, right? And, right now you can go buy all you want. You can take all you want. It's up to the individual. To me, the real issue comes into the science is metrogenine, because of the way it acts and the way it doesn't act and where it doesn't act. It's hard to believe that metrogenine itself will induce death. And there's a tremendous number of papers to that point. Most of the deaths that we see in North Dakota more than likely are adulterated products. And I don't know if in this assay they assayed for the 7-hydroxy product, if they assayed for, and they're calling it metrogenine, but they're lumping the 7-hydroxy in with that. Because 7-hydroxy, no doubt, will cause respiratory depression and death. And so that's the concern around adulteration. And any law that goes forward in a way that, speaking to what you're asking, needs to have a limit on how much 7-OH can be in there. And it has to be, in my opinion, brutal. If we're going to have it allowed to be on the street, that's the one we really have to look at. Some of the other ones, yes, and there's going to be a list, right? Dr. Hardy has that list already, but those have to be extremely limited, and it has to be tightly regulated, and the fines have to be substantial because this is an economic issue for a shop owner. You know, I make X amount per day. My fine is a couple $1,000. Who cares? Versus it's substantial, and then it ratchets it up based upon offenses. I think is where it's going to be really critical. So to answer your question, I think whatever is, if we allow kratom, the natural leaf product, to be out on the shelf, we have to tightly regulate and define how much of these other molecules can be in there. Does that answer your question, Representative Porter, sufficiently?
Senator Axman and Representative Mercy, yes, it gets me going in the right direction. I do think, you know, as we start looking at the kind of the two pathways that people are guiding us down, that we do have to pay close attention to how we set those guardrails up for what will potentially be something over the counter. And it does concern me. In my line of work, we're seeing plenty of interaction with patients that are using. We're seeing very poor results with Narcan because of how tightly this binds to the receptors. And
7-OH.
7-OH.
It's been going on a while. This isn't anything new to me, but I do fully agree with what you're saying. I just have a concern on the over-the-counter if there is some other causes of concern that people are able to still get their blood serum levels up to a point of dropping over from a cardiac dysrhythmia, that it would be nice to know.
Kratom doesn't work, or Narcan doesn't work on Kratom.
I don't disagree. I think we're on the same page. I think we have to be. So 7-OH, I mean, it's just like any other opioid overdose. Naloxone's not, it's great and it's very effective, but it's not 100%. And I mean, 7-OH is similar to fentanyl, if you want to think of it that way. Much more potent than morphine. And so I would not be surprised that you would run into people who've taken enough 7-OH that you're not going to displace it, and they'll die. Absolutely. They'll respond poorly. You know, you may need multiple naloxone doses, but that's why I think it's imperative that we follow the DEA's lead on those compounds and those molecules.
Thank you, Representative Murphy. Thank you, Representative Porter, for your questions.
Preach!
Senator Corey, you are next.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Something that's important to me as we're moving forward with this is to make sure the substances that we ban or regulate are included in what we nickname in judiciary as the Good Samaritan Act. We added fentanyl to this in 2023, and to me that'd be important to make sure this is included in that chapter.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Corey, for that point of view. Appreciate it. Any questions? Senator Beard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm really appreciating the conversations on here. And Representative Murphy and Representative Porter, that was a very interesting dialogue. I do agree, you know, we need to do something, and it seems to me the biggest thing is when some of these natural products get adulterated becomes the big issue. And some of you will remember, some of you are a little younger in here, but some of you will remember a few years ago we had the problems with spice, K2, remember that? And there again was an adulterated product that was sold as a natural plant derivative. And my concern is in this process that we deal with this issue and we whether we put the 7OH on Schedule 1, which I think is a great idea, and we come up with some type of formula for the natural product to be available to who can benefit from it. I'm okay with that too. I'm afraid the next big thing, somebody's going to come up with a plan somewhere that has some benefit for some reason, and the people that manufacture these synthetics to adulterate it, they're going to start selling it as a natural product, and we're kind of behind the 8 ball on it. So I would hope we can come up with some way to, as a group, to keep that from happening in the future. That we've got to come up with some way to keep these adulterated synthetic products off the shelves, and only potentially synthetics be available by prescription, because there's some benefits to some synthetics in prescription form. Even fentanyl has its place when it's regulated and administered appropriately. But of course, you're not going to allow fentanyl over the counter, and I'm afraid that's where we're going to end up. Is 2, 3, 4 years from now, we're going to have some other product that's going to have to be dealt with. So I think there's got to be some way we can do that. I would hope. The other thing is, as far as coming up with the right amount, what's the right dosage? I think the idea is good to think about, and what does that look like? I don't know, but to Representative Murphy's comment about you can die of overconsumption of water. I mean, you can die of overconsumption of alcohol. That's a legal product. You can die. How many people die in North Dakota every year because they're drinking too many energy drinks? And I've had people in my family, or one person in particular, who went into cardiac arrest because of that. I had a worker die of consumption of alcohol and energy drinks together. And so these natural or these things that are out there that are legal, people die of it all the time, and we're not regulating it in a manner maybe we should be. I'm not convinced that alcohol and energy drinks should be allowed, but it's legal. And so I just think if we go down this path of making some level legal, to not go too far down the road of, people that do benefit from it lose the benefit because we're worried that somebody's going to take 100 pills. So that's just my comments on it. And thanks for everybody's efforts on this.
Thank you, Senator Beard. I have heard no one else has their virtual hand raised. So if you are online and you would still like to speak, we'll give you a moment. I do want to thank, there's a lot of legislators who are online. I know you can't see them for those of you in the room, but from both chambers, we have a large audience that's engaged in listening. Okay. Any committee members, working group members, I should say, comments? I do have some that I'd like to share. That's all right before we move on. My background from this is fairly, in the scheme of things, fairly recent as well. I think if I would have looked at last session as well, the word kratom was something that was pretty unknown to me. And so when I hear us bring up, the bills from last session and say, it's the same issue, it's been discussed thoroughly, there's been great testimony, I personally do feel that it's not the same issue. The testimony is incredibly outdated because even our medical community, local families were very unaware of this. It wasn't the same product and marketed in the same way as it was last session. And so I think we didn't get a lot of testimony from parents of high school students across North Dakota who are severely addicted. We didn't get testimony from NICU physicians who now are seeing extreme withdrawals in infants. And so I think there was a large amount of testimony that is missing. And so I hope we will gain some of those perspectives as the industry has changed since last session. Also, we didn't have the knowledge of what the DEA action had done. And so I think that portion is a very substantial thing we have to consider to allow our law enforcement to just do their job. And so that aspect was missing last session. And so I think we can look back at the testimony, but we also have to look at what has happened since that testimony has occurred. And the industry has changed, and those in our communities that have been affected has definitely changed. I was made aware of this by a local physician who has seen a rapidly rising spike of adolescents coming in severe withdrawal and needing medical attention, and sometimes even inpatient treatment to overcome the withdrawals from this. And so they're extremely worried about the withdrawals. The infants being born are the worst withdrawals they have ever seen in infants, are those whose mothers were taking kratom in all forms, natural and synthetic. I'd like to echo kind of what Senator Beard said as well. And maybe we did it right and we weren't proactive. And if we would have known last session, maybe we could have got ahead of this and not had North Dakota be a hotbed for these industries to come and sell the product and market to youth, the gas stations marketing to all of our high school athletes. And so maybe we could have gotten ahead of it, but also now I think it's timely to have the conversation and talk about what was proactive versus reactive. And now I'm taking a look at what other states are doing, what other countries are doing. It is banned, both natural and synthetics are all banned in most countries in Europe. So this is not just a United States problem, not a North Dakota problem, but there's a lot of states who maybe beat us to tackling this because it was infiltrated into their state earlier. And so a lot of them did go the way of banning synthetics, regulating natural. But now I think it's important to look at how quickly those states are changing. They're either making stricter regulations on natural or they're now going to ban it. So I do think my concern maybe is, are we going to fall behind the eight ball and what's going to come next if we let our state lag behind other states as well? Will we continue to be the place where the industry profits off of North Dakotans who are struggling with addiction? And so I think I've learned a lot since last session and what's changed and what's different. And so I do hope, instead of just looking at what we talked about last session, is that we do, because this is so rapidly changed, especially in North Dakota, that we really talk to people who've recently been affected by this and medical professionals who've seen a change in just even the last 6 months.
Like someone else
Representative
said.
Scro, do you have I guess we lost our video. Oh, I think we're back.
708
Did you have your
strikes
hand raised?
again.
Yep.
Are you able to hear me now?
Okay, we are. You are unmuted. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, so when this executive order came down, I received a call from a young man who has PTSD. He had been treated by physicians with a number of medications unsuccessfully, was able to come back to a normal life it was a natural kratom, and he actually would buy a month's supply at a time. He was able to become much more stable, function as a dad and as an adult. And when this executive order came down, he called terrified that he would be charged with being a felon by using this. Um, we talked for 2 hours on the phone, and in the end, he threw out all of the kratom because he was afraid that his father-in-law, who was a law officer, might find it in his home, and he would be charged and his kids taken away and all kinds of horrific things. Yet he felt he had no alternative but to do just that. And now here he is with no alternative treatment that he can turn to. And I have no answer for him. So if there is someone on this committee or someone on this meeting who has suggestions, I'd appreciate them. But he would absolutely come and testify to how he's been helped by it. But he absolutely does not want to see the enhanced, the synthetic types of kratom, the blends of kratom be allowed on the market. He said he himself has studied it quite significantly and sees that as where the problem lies, rather than in the natural, say, powder form that actually can be sold in encapsulated forms and controlled in doses of, say, 5 milligrams. I think it's 5 milligrams, and capped at 15 per day. So ways of managing this, I think, so that we can help people who definitely benefit from natural kratom, but at the same time restricting the adulterated versions of kratom that we may find in C-stores, for example, or online. And yes, people will turn to other states and online to obtain this. And at the same time, if we do not allow it in North Dakota at all, then people will be forced to break the law, I'm afraid. But the balance, I think, is the key here. Finding the balance that protects legitimate use while restricting abusive use.
Mm,
That's my comment.
that makes me sad. I like that comment, but
Thank
that
you,
makes me
Representative
so
Scott.
sad.
Anyone else online? Oh, Representative Murphy. Since we've got a little bit of time, we'll let you do a quick reattack.
It'll be quick. Well,
We've heard that, Representative Murphy.
I can't say hi quickly. So I want to go with Representative Scorch's point of view. So I spent a lot of time on Wednesday on the phone with law enforcement, trying to gauge what was the Grand Forks Police Department going to do in case, similar to the previous speaker, Madam Chair, we had somebody call us and, in a frantic, what do I do? And, our police department said it's an infraction. I mean, we're probably not writing many tickets, right? And on Monday, when I'm talking with the governor's office, seizure of product was a real enforcement possibility. And so Wednesday, I want to know, what do I tell our retailers in my district with regards to selling it, right? Like, are the police going to come in at 5:01 and seize it? All your inventory? What are they going to do? And so we had that discussion. I called BCI to find out what their direction was to the law enforcement community across the state. And they didn't have a lot of direction from within the executive branch. And so everybody was sort of struggling. What do we do? So what GFPD said is, if we go into a store and it's there, we're going to give them 72 hours to remove it. That was their point of view. And we're probably not writing anybody infractions. So we're not going to seize it from an individual who has it, who's using it in their home. We're not, this isn't what we're going to do. And I was amazed that at 3 p.m. on Wednesday, both two stores really close to me, which both do a ton of kratom business, all had it off the shelf by 3 p.m. And in fact, one store said we shipped it to our stores that are in other states where it's allowed. And so what I was appreciative of the retail community working hard to try to follow the law. And so I think that's important to note. Why? Because I think it shows that, people do care. The retail community does care. They do want to follow the law. They do want to do what's the right thing. And, but everybody's looking to us for direction. But anyhow, for Representative Scorch, I just want to say, that individual should probably continue using their kratom as they have. And the general dose, hard to find, is there's a paper out of Johns Hopkins, that it's 5.1 grams a day was on average what a small group of kratom users average on a day. And so you can, that's going to be about 55 milligrams of metrogeny if you scale it up. So there you go. Thank you.
Thank you, Murphy. And just to clear that up, there is a formal process now for retailers or any individual to work with different agencies. It's been published on what to do with dispose or storage of items.
It should have never gotten this far.
No, it shouldn't. It shouldn't have.
But this hearing has been amazing so far. I am shooketh.
Yeah.
I
I'm
am
very
shooketh.
Thank you, colleagues. I think we gave, anyone else watching, a glimpse of what it looks like when we are trying to work through an issue during legislative session and walking around the hallways and in committee hearings talking to one another. And so I think we're going to learn a lot. I hope everyone tunes in next week to hear some from professionals who've been dealing on sides of this issue. We hope to gather a full agenda for next Wednesday. And then obviously this will also go through the full legislative hearing process during special session. So thank you all for, with such short notice, taking the time to learn as much as we can from each other and hearing what everyone has to say. So with that, I'll adjourn the meeting.
Nice. And I just want to bring up a couple of things here, if I could, because I didn't want to interrupt. But there was a comment, the average person distinguishes between the two.
The average person on the street is not going to distinguish between kratom and 7, and you've seen that in many states. Yes, they have.
Yeah.
It is not hard to distinguish it. One's chemical soup and the other one's natural powder. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, dude, it should have never been in the, hey. It should have never been on the shelves in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And, the thing is, because it was marketed as kratom for so long, when people are going to ERs or to rehab facilities or calling poison control or whatever, like they're constantly attributing it to kratom. They're saying it was kratom. Maybe it was sold to them as kratom. Maybe they don't want to say what it is. I don't know. I don't know the reason. But the point is, the media has gotten wind of that. They call it kratom. The legislators, most of them don't even care. So they don't care to learn the difference. They just say, ban it all.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it has literally come into the market under falsehoods, shouldn't even be on the market.
Right.
As kratom. And it's done nothing but destroy kratom's name.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, I will never support 7-OH.
Nope.
It is not the same as kratom. And, I understand some people feel like, they need it, but that's not my fight. Kratom is my fight, and 7-OH is taking it down. Period.
Yep. It's why us, I always say this, us real kratom advocates, we have been working overtime to attend and testify at these hearings. And I will continue saying this. It has been over 300 hearings since last year, 2025.
Yeah. I mean, it's ridiculous how many. I mean, dude, Tennessee banned. I mean, I know that the whole Matthew Davenport law, but 708 was technically illegal here in Tennessee.
But it still
But
found
it's
its way through there.
all over every motherfucking shelf you saw. And so then, people are like, oh, my husband got strung out on kratom. So and so had to go to the hospital for kratom. So on top of the Matthew Davenport bullshit, everybody's saying, well, it's horrible anyway. Ban it.
Ban it.
I mean, that's just it is
Tennessee,
what it is.
it's Louisiana was August of 2025. And then it goes to Connecticut, and then it goes to Tennessee and Kansas. 4 states have banned it all because of 7-OH, and Kentucky. But we have a sliver of hope in Kentucky.
Like, it's just got to go. It's got to go.
Yeah.
It should have been gone a long time ago.
And I say this all the time. I stand proudly to divide from that community.
Yeah.
7-OH is not kratom.
Exactly.
I ain't doing that fake kumbaya bullshit about, we should all regulate and be one. We are all kratom. That is bullshit.
We are not all kratom because 7-OH is not kratom. Period. I mean, it's just not. It's just not.
But these representatives, this hearing was amazing. If you're just now tuning in, you need to rewind and watch.
Yes.
Because this went so amazing.
And you know what? I haven't been this impressed with like the majority of the legislators that spoke today. Not only did their homework, that one guy did his homework.
Yes, he did.
Baby. And I know there was a comment saying that study in Florida was industry funded and it was anyway, that's not true at all. That was not true. It's not true at all. Dr. McCurdy is not going to throw away his career because he got paid to say something. That's so
right.
ridiculous.
No. McCurdy will do his research. He will he's not going to throw away his reputation, his career, his integrity because somebody, threw in some money for studies.
Yeah.
He's not going to do that.
Half of the things that we consume in this world were industry funded. Oh yeah, there was deaths attributed to kratom before 7-OH. Yeah. There were. But I didn't even bring up the deaths. But I mean, I will say this. The death toll since 7-OH has been out has sure been rising. I'm not trying to say nothing about it. I'm just saying I think maybe it has something to do with, a bunch of shit being thrown in the pills or something. I don't know. But, yeah, there was bans before 7-OH came out.
Not as much.
10, I'm talking about 100 times over since 2020.
Yeah, because in my 7 years of advocacy, we might have attended or testified at maybe 15, 20 hearings per year.
Yeah.
But in a year's time, since July of 2025, we've had to attend and or testify at over 300.
Yep. And it's the same thing every time.
Yeah. It is 7-OH that has caused massive destruction in these communities.
Yeah.
And they're lumping it in with kratom. So what do us real advocates do? We go in there and we help teach them the difference if they don't know.
And I mean, the whole thing I've heard, regulation. Dude, the industry haven't been able to regulate in 2 years. Over 2 years. Why in the world are they going to, they're going to start doing it now? Get out of here. I don't know. That's just silly. That's silly. I mean, but again, it's not my fight.
Not my fight either.
I fight to keep kratom legal.
You know what? Ain't nobody gonna rope me in that bullshit because we're seeing that with our own. I always say my 4 eyes because I wear glasses, but we're seeing it firsthand.
I mean, this hearing, it wasn't a hearing, but this was amazing compared to how it usually goes.
Yeah.
Like I've never seen. You had the lady talking about her sister with chronic pain. You had the dude that did all his homework, even looked at the death the tox screen and stuff. Like, dude.
As he was talking, he pulled up the email that he received, and I know which death he's talking about. I'm not going to name it here, but I know which death he's talking about.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's like I can't remember. I know they came into the market without registering their product, period. And I guess they waited forever and ever to actually register the product, and it was like reading it is ridiculous. Like,
Yeah, like what Todd talks about?
yeah.
Yep.
It's just like, oh man. It doesn't pass the 8-factor analysis. Like, it's just like I don't know,
They 7OH came into the market under the guise of the Kratom name so that they could skirt the law. And I will say this a million freaking times. They knew what they were doing.
Oh yeah.
They came in,
they banked off of it.
they created whole populations of addicts, and then they're going to dip out and bounce and go on to the next product.
Yeah.
People that take 7OH do not care, do not realize, or maybe they do and they don't care, that you are the human science experiment for somebody to make millions and billions off of you.
Yeah. Yep.
Because there's no data at all prior to market entry. There still isn't even any data after all these years later. They had one Beagle study, and that was even flawed.
Yeah. But it's like, because it flooded the market and there's so many people, that are addicted, dependent, reliant on it, however you want to say it. Now it's like, oh, well, what about those people? I'm sorry, but the longer it's out on the market, the more people that are going to be affected.
Yes.
Plain and fucking simple. Like, I mean, I'm sorry. The only thing I can say is, like, I'm sorry, but the greater good. You have to think this is the greater good right now.
Mm-hmm. And us real advocates are out here busting our ass to save Kratom. So you can have the option to either go back to Kratom or use Kratom for the 7OH once we hear the DEA announcement that's going to be scheduled, which is supposed to happen any day now, that you have a fallback plan. Do we expect, thank yous? No, we don't. Because we've been trying to save Kratom and keep Kratom legal this whole time.
Yeah.
This is what it's in our blood. It's what we've been doing, so.
And just all the hate and just all that. It's just like so much. It's just so much. And it's so still, I don't know. I know everybody has their own like point of view, but I don't think anybody's actually looked at it, as far as like someone that's given all the hate from the 7OH side.
Yeah.
I don't think they've ever sat down and actually looked at what's
the bigger
going
picture,
on.
the bigger picture, and it's like, and these over 300 hearings that we're at, maybe one or two, might be the 7OHer, but they also consume Kratom, might attend those, but that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. I'd say maybe 5 out of the 300.
Maybe.
I've seen. Maybe.
Oh, at 5 hearings?
Yeah. At 5 hearings.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't know.
Because I can't compute in my brain, how the hell are you going to try to save 7OH when you know full well that 7OH is what's dragging Kratom down to hell?
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Yeah, they didn't go to DC for Hill Day, but I guess there's like people in the community that think they're like magically meeting with legislators and shit. I have a feeling they're just sitting around on the fucking beach or whatever, knitting, whatever they do in their spare time.
Talking about they go to hearings and shit. No, the fuck they don't.
They might be going and writing checks to legislators, but they ain't sitting there trying to work with people, man.
Tell me which hearing they attended. I will go back and look through all of our recordings because we record them all.
Yep. I don't know. I just, and you can't, I don't know. I would like to just shake. Hello. Can you see? Are you listening? Pay attention. Oh, goodness. All right. Well, we're going to go for now. But yeah, I think that was a great
It was amazing.
I'm gonna move to North Dakota because Tennessee legislation sucks.
It was amazing. I am the fact that they brought up last year's testimonies, which
Over and over.
is where if you guys don't know, I testified on January 13th, 2025, and my granddaughter was born like 10-15 minutes right before it was my turn to testify. You know, my grandma lives in North Dakota. You know, so this is special for me. My only surviving grandma lives there.
Yup. But they're there. You know, I've heard them say, well, I was there. I didn't see you. I didn't hear you.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, thank you, Keith. I hope you're having a good time.
Hey, Keith.
Yeah, I just
Keith and Kate. You know, and Kate went to the DC that we went in June. You know, she got to see the inside of what it's like to go and talk to these reps in the offices and stuff. It was amazing. It was amazing.
I don't know, man. You know, I'm so fed up with it. And so when I don't know.
So we're going to go live again in a couple hours. I don't know exactly what time. So I always just keep saying, make sure y'all hit that notification bell.
Yeah. Yeah, we got a couple things coming up today. So
Yeah.
be on the lookout.
Yeah, be on the lookout. And then we're not going to do the recap with Mac tomorrow. It will be Sunday. So we're going to do Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern time, recap with Mac. So you guys make sure, like I said, hit that notification bell.
Hit that bell. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Oh my God.
Give me a thumbs up.
Hey, Shannon. Love you too.
Oh, yes.
Yes, Charlene. Yes. Okay. I know that there's going to be a public hearing next Wednesday. I didn't catch the time. I'm waiting for the AKA to put out an alert about this. You know, so it's going to be Wednesday. So if you can get your bootay down to Bismarck.
Yeah. Or, you know, I don't know. I know last time they had virtual hearing, you know, so if you know.
Oh, yeah, it might be.
Yeah. So, but it does help when people from the state, you know, actually show up. So that'd be amazing. Yeah.
Yep. So it's going to be next Wednesday. What they said, let's see, the 12th? Yep, the 12th.
Do you know Charlene? Should we give her Laura's number or email?
Yeah. Put that on screen. Make sure y'all screenshot that.
All right. Yeah. Screenshot this here.
Yep.
And this is Laura Romney. If you send her your name, city, and state, then she'll get with you whenever like your state pops up. But yeah, we're definitely needing North Dakota people. So
we do.
Charlene, send her shoot her an email over there. So that way you'll know as soon as we do.
Oh, thank you, Kate. Yes. She switched it over from the other one to her personal. So this will be that's her email address. Screenshot that. Yes, because it's been so hard to find North Dakota people.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad that you popped in.
I know, Charlene.
I always say everything happens for a reason. So
I don't know you, but welcome to the Kratom Club.
Welcome. Oh my God. You fractured your leg?
Who did?
Megan.
Oh, what?
Ooh, it was good, Megan. It was really good. They're going to come back. They were just doing like a discussion, but I mean, North Dakota got some good legislators.
They do.
Yeah.
They truly do.
I'm
Y'all
sorry.
been blessed.
I hope you feel better. God, that sounds awful.
I know. Good God.
Oh, nice.
That was me. That was me, Misty. Or I go by the T-Bish on my socials. The T-Bish.
But yeah, send Laura an email and, you know, she'll get with you.
Yeah.
She's amazing.
She's on top of that. Like white on rice.
You fell down a hill?
What, Megan? Did you go rolling?
Holy crap. Dude, you gotta be careful. Oh my God. Now I'm like just waiting to see what else.
I know. Wait, too. I want to know, Megan. You know what? I wonder. Was it your dog? Were you walking your dog?
Oh man.
She's got such a cute little doggy.
Yep.
Megan. Ooh.
My cats try to kill me all the time. They like run in front of me and just stop, and I'm like,
Man,
okay.
mine too. Mine too.
Yep. Lovely. All right, well, we're gonna get off of here, but we will be on later today, and we'll see y'all later.
Yep. See y'all later.
See y'all on the flip side.